Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about something a little different in contrast to what I'm accustomed to doing as far as the astrology videos go. I'm going to deviate and take a break from my aspect series for this one video. And this is going to be about, I guess we could say, reasons for, change in people and, vacillating moods and, worry as far as the signs go. And I'm going to start off with going through the fixed signs, which we know are Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. Now these people that have birthdays or a strong influence in this as far as having the sign prominent in their charts or one of these signs or more, especially with the sun and ascendant, they have generally the ability to eradicate a lot of changeabilities in their life and moods and worry. They could essentially throw off this in their during the course of their life. As we know, Taurus, is obviously or arguably the most fixed sign of the zodiac, known for being, very persistent, persevering, and very slow to change, as we know. That's one sign that, obviously doesn't succumb to too many dour moods. And next, Leo is very resolute, very dignified and proud, and they're hard, to say, to really sway or change their mind. They could be very intransigent as well, and they have a feeling of dignity and power around them, and I think that has something to do with the fact that they don't really succumb to too many negative moods or being pensive or worrisome or what have you. And next in line, we talk about Scorpio. And as we know, Scorpio, we know this is a fixed sign, and they, like I've talked about before with Taurus and Leo, they're very fixed and intense, and it's a sign that is, very immutable and almost has no room for flexibility, I believe, even compared to maybe the other fixed signs. It's a sign that's willful and intense, and this is a sign, very, it's slow to change like the other fixed signs, and especially emotionally they are very strong in purpose and fixed. And then the last but not least, I'm going to go to Aquarius. And Aquarius, even though it's an air sign, it's very amicable and can be very friendly, and it's known for being eccentric and innovative, and people that are always progressing and moving forward in life, known for their idiosyncrasies. At the same time, it's very fixed. They have very strong mental aptitude and ability, and I think this reasoning, being the fixed sign and the fact that their prodigious mental prowess is such where it throws off a lot of negativity and vacillation and mood changing. So I think for those reasons, the fixed signs are the ones that come first, astrologically, in terms of everything but eradicating vacillation with their moods and fickleness and being flighty. They're the most stable, and the signs that are as a result, they're not quite as vulnerable or susceptible to maybe perhaps people trying to bother them or come at them in an adverse or negative manner, or any kind of something negative happening toward them as a result from negative behavior from somebody else, because their complexion is such where they don't appear to be fearful or timid or frightened in any way, shape, or form. And I think this kind of, detracts people from maybe bothering them, coming at them in a derogatory manner. And as far as any, sudden elements of, I guess we could say disaster or negativity, they are probably least susceptible to that. Now, the signs that come next in line, I guess, to be, less, vulnerable to any possible, negativity, from somebody else or people or what have you, would be the signs of Aries, Libra, and Capricorn. Now, Aries, Libra, and Capricorn are cardinal signs. They're not quite, they're not as fixed in purpose as the first four that I mentioned, which are fixed signs. However, when we look at these signs, cardinal is not mutable, so, therefore, they're not quite, they're not going to be quite as worrisome as the, the mutable signs. Maybe not as fixed as the fixed signs, but they have enough in them to basically, eliminate, majority of, I guess, any kind of negative, derogatory thoughts or any kind of, tremendous mood swings. We look at, Aries is known sometimes as Aries the Fearless. They are, but they are single-minded and, maybe not quite as fixed as the, the fixed signs as mentioned, but they do have some strength, in purpose, and this is a sign that is willing to combat virtually anything because it's a sign that has the no fear philosophy or concept. They're very, a lot of fortitude and a lot of, courage and valor. Now we'll go to the next sign in cardinal is going to be Libra. I'm going to talk about Libra. They're a sign that generally is fairly passive, but they strive for balance and equilibrium. They abhor injustice. And even though they might, come across as somewhat passive and submissive, they will fight for beliefs when necessary. So, this is a sign, though, not one to necessarily engage, in something combative. They do have enough in them to fight, when something is really, when they sense injustice, they won't have much fear in trying to combat that. Now I'll go to Capricorn. Capricorn, though not as fixed as, say, Taurus, is still a single-minded sign, especially when it comes to business endeavors. They are very strong in purpose. And, we look at, like, George Steinbrenner, the late, great, I guess we could say revered baseball owner. He was somebody that was very rarely outsmarted in terms of his business and executive ability, and had the ability to acquire, virtually whoever he wanted on his team. And, as far as from a business standpoint, this is a sign that has virtually no fear. And they're also very, consistent and tenacious. And this is a sign that doesn't waver as far as, moods go. So I want to go last but not least, the cardinal. I'm going to, Cancer, I don't include in this group as the second, I guess, tier to combat, I guess, negative moods and fear and worry, because Cancer is, even though it's a cardinal sign, it's known for being, kind of flighty and mercurial, and succumbs to changes a lot in terms of their moods. So we know how emotional and moody they can be. So even though it falls in a cardinal sign, I'm going to put it with, the mutable signs in terms of the fear and, and the worry go. So the mutable signs I'm going to get to, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. They're the ones that are very vulnerable more to adverse, negativity actions directed on them, because, they are changeable signs, and something, I guess, maybe their complexion is such, what maybe draws, could, draw adversity more into, themselves and their lives, as opposed to the cardinal and fixed signs that I mentioned previously. Gemini is very, vacillating, to say the least, and mercurial. They can go from one side to the other very quickly, almost in a heartbeat. And then Virgo is known to be kind of pensive and can be apprehensive and worrisome. Worry is often associated with Virgo strongly. And Sagittarius, even though it's a fire sign and they're certainly they have courage in them, and it's known to be a very outspoken and courageous sign. It is a mutable sign, and they can succumb to fear and worry, I think, as well, pretty strongly. And Pisces, is obviously a very known to be a very passive and submissive sign, and that has inclination toward, I guess, vacillation with moods and moods, emotions changing fairly rapidly. And for those reasons, I think we look at those signs as the ones that have the strongest mood swings, and consequently may have the most vulnerability to some kind of abrupt negative thing that might be happening toward them, directed from someone else or other people. So what I wanted to conclude with is this: is that when we look at the chart, if someone has a rising sign that is fixed, this would apply. Sun sign somewhat, I do believe. We look for the signs on, as far as the rising sign goes, I think is stronger, in my opinion, figures more prominently than the sun sign. So people with fixed rising signs can generally throw off, adverse moods, I believe. And if you look in people that have, I guess we could say, the cardinal signs, with the exception of Cancer, can throw off this, kind of negative thinking to some degree, although they are not as fixed in purpose as the fixed signs. Now, the signs of Cancer, Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces are probably, I believe, are last in line to be able to eradicate, negative thoughts and apprehension and fear, due to the fact that they are very changeable, and they are most vulnerable, I think, to negativity, being directed at them. You could apply this to the sun sign as well, but I believe it factors in more strongly with the fixed signs. And last but not least, as I say in end of most of my videos, is that factor in the whole chart when evaluating this, because if you look at somebody might have a fixed rising sign, but might have an afflicted Saturn, and might be very adversely aspected, and have a plethora of mutable signs in them. So they're obviously going to take on, they're not going to be quite as fixed as somebody with a fixed ascendant that has a lot of fixed planets in them. Or conversely, somebody that has a mutable ascendant could very well have 7 or 8 planets in fixed signs, so they won't be quite as worrisome as the average person with a mutable rising sign. So people, I just wanted to get with you on this, and the next segment I will continue dissertating and talking about my aspect series. And until next time, people, stay well.